Welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. I hope you're having a fantastic day as we roll through the week. It's already the midweek, isn't it? We're halfway there as we continue to move from the summer season into the fall, and as we get ready to say goodbye to summer, we're getting some summer-like temperatures, aren't we? Holy smoke, sunshine today. Alistair on the news saying that we might even have just a touch of humidity today. I don't like the word humidity, but a touch of humidity kind of works. 24, I think, is the high today. Maybe I'm wrong, but 24, feel like 27. That's end of September. I don't think there's many people that are gonna be upset about that, except for those of you that are on dry wells and, of course, those of you that are dealing with dry situations. Still doesn't look like there's much by the way of rain in the forecast, so we will keep our eye on that. I know Alistair is keeping his eye on the drought conditions, and he's also going to join us on Friday when we do our regular segment with him to talk a little bit about the weather and what it means for the weekend. The Blue Jays are certainly hot, aren't they? Holy smokes. When's the last time at this point in the season we were talking about magic numbers for the American League East title? Normally it's magic numbers to clinch a wild card berth, or that we're, 3 games back and there's 10 games left or whatever it is. And we have to win X amount of games in order to do this. And the other teams have to lose anyway. This year that's is completely different. The Blue Jays continue to win. Another close game last night. My understanding is they're now 5 games up on the Yankees and 7 games up on the Red Sox in the American League East. And magic numbers are starting to shrink, right? Magic numbers are the numbers of wins combined with losses that the Blue Jays have to do. I think I hear Simon say 6. I think 6 is the number for the East. Maybe it's 7, but anyway, that is pretty awesome. And you will be able to hear, of course, all of the Blue Jays action in the playoffs, should they make it, right here on 95.7 News Radio as we get behind the Blue Jays like many of you already are. And let's face it, they get a lot of support right across the country. Can I say it? Can I call them Canada's team? I know the Yankee fans and the Red Sox fans in the listening area today are probably throwing stuff out the window right now, but that's, I guess, just the fact. Our interview with Premier Tim Houston yesterday was a lot of fun, wasn't it? It was fun to have the Premier in here for an hour and answer a bunch of your questions. And thanks for all the emails that you all sent after the interview. I appreciate all of that. And we broke some news, right? The Premier confirming right here. And if you're watching the news last night, you saw, and you of course saw it on our website and on the radio all day, that there will be no strong mayor powers. I know that many of you were calling into the show when this was kind of being broached. And there was a lot of discussion about this. It was right during the height of the bike lane debates and right during the height of the Moore Street debate. And a number of you had come out and said that you would support this. I'm curious to what your thoughts are on it now that we've had some time to kind of sit back and think about it. The Premier yesterday said that he and the government have a lot of tools in the toolbox, so to speak, to deal with issues that they think are out of bounds with regards to municipal decisions. And that's not just for HRM, that's right across the province of Nova Scotia. But, of course, the focus as of late has been on some of the decisions made here. The Premier says not in this session. There won't be strong mayor powers handed out. Mayor Fillmore reacting to it yesterday, issuing a statement. We've reached out to Mayor Fillmore's office to try and get him to come on the show. Vanessa tells me that he's pretty busy this week, so we're going to try and get him on the air next week and get his reaction to that and what it's going to look like moving forward here. I'm very curious as to what your reaction to that is, and we will open up the telephone lines. Don't forget, at noon today, not at 11 o'clock, because it's Wednesday, and that means that Dr. John Gillis will be here for house calls during the 11 o'clock hour. But at noon today, we're going to open up the telephone lines. I'm curious as to your thoughts from the news yesterday that the Premier said there will be no strong mayor powers, at least in this session of the legislature. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you on that. Also, I'm hoping you all can help me out a little bit. Have you been following this story? It's kind of the on-again, off-again saga that is the third Costco store for HRM. Have you been following this? I don't even know when it was the first time. It was last year, I think, when the rumors started to swirl that there was going to be a third Costco site built somewhere in the Sackville area, right? And there was maybe going to be some changes to the Bears Lake store, and people got a flutter about this new Costco, and then the developer said, "Hey, wait a minute, there's nothing, nothing happened at this point, right?" So then it kind of went away, but then it came back into the news this week, and it came from that town hall meeting that we were talking about earlier this week. The mayor alluded to it. I wasn't at it. I don't know what exactly he said, but he alluded to the third Costco in Middle Sackville, and that, of course, grabbed the headlines, and everybody got excited again. And now we're starting to see that developer again saying, nope, nothing is set. We're not moving forward, and maybe a little bit of I don't know if backpedaling's the word, but maybe a little bit of clarification from the mayor's office. Anyway, all of that stuff aside, I would really like to hear from you in the third hour today about why everybody gets so excited about a new Costco store. We've already got two. This would be a third. I know they're busy. I know that if you go to Costco on Saturday, it's not easy to get in there and to get a parking spot. But it feels to me like when this story comes back, and this is again the second, third iteration of this coming back, that everybody gets all wound up, and maybe it's just a social media thing, and maybe I'm in the wrong areas on social media. I don't know, but I don't understand. Like if this was the first Costco store, if we didn't have one and we were getting one, well, I can understand the excitement. I really can. But a third one? I know many of you use it a lot. I know many of you go there because y'all have big families and y'all can buy in bulk, and you have the ability to go through that. That's not the situation in my family, but that's neither here nor there. I live very close to a Costco, and I can tell you that most occasions when I drive by it, it's pretty busy there, right? Many of you get your propane there. Many of you go there and stock up the pantry and the freezer when you go there. I stopped going to Costco in January, and that was just a conscious decision on my behalf because of the situation happening between Canada and the United States. And I'm certainly not going to tell you how to shop. That's a decision that you get to make on your own. But I don't understand the excitement, the buzz, the everybody kind of looking forward to a third location. I don't understand. It would be nice if we had the same amount of excitement and anticipation, maybe is the word, for an opening of a local place, right? I don't know, something to think about. I know I asked this question in the newsroom before I came on the air this morning around the table there, and asked everybody why they think this is so such a big buzz, and the genuine answer from our newsroom was, it's the hot dogs, Dan. It's the Costco hot dogs, and I get that. I know everybody goes there. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people go there to get the Costco hot dogs. I don't know. Maybe something you want to talk about in the open hour today. Do we need a third Costco? Just saying. What else is going on today? Bank of Canada will be announcing its interest rate decision a little bit later today. We will have Clinton Wilkins join us here on the program. Of course, for those of you who don't know who we're speaking of, Clinton hosts Mortgage 101 that goes every month here on the radio station. He's going to pop by the show to tell us a little bit about what the decision is, what it means for your mortgage, and what it means for you if you're selling your home or perhaps looking to buy a home in the fall or maybe early winter. Clinton will be here to discuss it. I will say that this past weekend on the latest edition of Mortgage 101, Mr. Wilkins said that he believes, and many in the industry believe, that this will be a 25 basis point drop, and this will be the first of what could be 3 25-point basis drops. So we're seeing interest rates most of the economists today, most of the experts today are saying that it's locked in, it's done, but we won't know officially until Tiff Macklin actually announces it. But it looks like it's going to be an interest rate drop. What does this mean for the market anyway? Stick around. Just after noon today, we're going to take just a sliver off of the open hour after Dr. John Gillis today to get Clinton to give us his thoughts on the Bank of Canada. It doesn't come out till, 11:15 or something. So we'll get him on, get that information for you, and then we'll carry on into the open hour. That's all part of the show today. Hope you are ready for a federal budget. We talked about this with Laurie Turnbull yesterday on the show. And that is coming on the 4th of November. And to paraphrase what Laurie Turnbull, our political scientist, thinks this is going to be, she said it's not going to be a happy day for a lot of people. And I think I agree with her. And I've talked about this a couple of times here on the program. I think that we're going to see some pretty massive spending on infrastructure. I mean, the Prime Minister's been pretty clear about his big projects bill, right? I think that we're going to see some pretty big spending on the military because he's been pretty upfront with that. I mean, we have to, right? It's part of our NATO commitment. But I also think that there's going to be some nuggets in there that particularly those that are working in the public service aren't going to like to hear. And that word austerity keeps coming around. And we know that when we start to get austerity-type budgets, it usually means reductions. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that are watching this budget very closely, particularly those who work or have family or friends that work in the public service. Anyway, something else you might want to talk about during the open hour today. We're off and running here on the Wednesday edition of the program. When we come back, there's an event happening today which is designed to get older adults to listen to their heart. And it has nothing to do with love. It has actually to do with the organ. We'll have a quick conversation about the stethoscope event that's underway when we connect up with Dr. Osama Elkhateeb, is an interventional cardiologist at Nova Scotia Health and a professor of medicine at Dalhousie University. He'll be your guest when we return. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. Back in minutes. All right, welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show, the Wednesday edition of the program, off and running. And there is an event that is now off and running at the Halifax Shopping Centre, and that is today. And it's a program designed to get particularly older adults to listen to their heart and to make sure that everything is working properly down there. Very pleased to welcome into the program today interventional cardiologist with Nova Scotia Health and, of course, a professor of medicine at Dalhousie University, Dr. Osama Elkhateeb. Doctor, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
I guess let's describe to people what exactly is happening today. What have you got set up there at the shopping center?
Yeah, so thanks for having me. As you know, heart valve disease affects over a million Canadians, and many don't even know they have it. The early signs like fatigue, shortness of breath, dizziness are often mistaken for a normal aging. But unfortunately, if left untreated, this can be life-threatening. So that's today why we're hosting a free stethoscope event here in Halifax. Basically, we're listening to people's heart and trying to detect early signs of any problem and hopefully act on it early so we can prevent serious effects.
Doctor, this heart valve disease, it can be silent, it can be there, and you don't even know, and it can be there for years.
That's correct. It's almost, so as you know, the heart is a muscle, it's a pump. It has there's valves that works in the heart, and like a door, it opens and closes every day, every minute, and with time, with aging, it starts to become rusty and either become stiff or leaky. And one of the early signs that we can detect is you can start hearing a murmur, which is an abnormal noise that you can see and listen to. And this could be a serious of a big problem. or it could be nothing, but we need to do more investigations and more tests to make sure that it's really nothing serious.
Often wondered why, whenever I pop into a doctor's office, that cold stethoscope gets stuck on my chest.
That's exactly it, and that's what we're encouraging people to try to ask their providers to listen to their hearts at least once or twice every year, just to make sure that everything is fine, especially if there is any symptoms like that, the ones I mentioned, shortness of breath, fatigue, chest pains, these kind of symptoms.
How prevalent is heart valve disease?
So there is, all over Canada, there is about 1 million with the heart valve disease, and often this is treatable if it's detected early. However, if we leave it for a long time and it's missed, then it becomes very difficult to treat and have very, very difficult and serious consequences.
Does this normally happen in people over a certain age, or can it happen to just about anyone?
It can happen to anyone, but as you age, it becomes more prevalent and more common. So that's why the event here in Halifax is targeted to older people. So really anybody above 60 years and older, we can listen to their heart, and we will hopefully prevent problems.
What kind of treatments are there, doctor, for heart valve disease? What happens when we detect this? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so the first step is really to make sure that this murmur is pathologic, has consequences. So usually that will lead to doing an echo ultrasound, an ultrasound image that shows the valves and the heart. And then if it becomes serious and it's causing effects, then there is lots of treatment options. You can go with either medications, you can have an open heart surgery to replace the valve, or nowadays even we have a catheter-based where it's minimally invasive and you can replace these valves with minimally invasive. So there is lots of options. It's often treatable, and if we caught it early, we can prevent major consequences.
Is heart valve disease hereditary? Is it in your genes, or is it random?
So there is two parts. There is the hereditary, and that's usually with younger population. But the more common one that we see here in Canada is with aging, and as you get older, as with the analogy of the door, rusty door, there's the calcium buildup on those valves, and that leads to basically just being inefficient and needs something.
If left untreated, doctor, does this trigger a heart attack? Is that what happens?
So one of the symptoms could be a heart attack, but also could lead to what we call heart failure or weakening of the muscle. It can lead to buildup of fluids around the heart and around the chest, leading to become short of breath, fatigue, and chest pain. But one of the symptoms could be, yes, a heart attack.
All right, so the event is happening today at the shopping center. Where are you set up?
It's at the Winners entrance, the first floor of the Halifax Shopping Center. Just green the Winners entrance. You will see a big sign there. Lots of people are already coming. We're doing an amazing job.
And you're there till what, 2 o'clock this afternoon? Did we lose the doctor? Are you there? I think we did lose the doctor. Anyway, good information there. Free clinic, guys. So it really doesn't take a lot of time. It's just it's a little uncomfortable with that cold stethoscope. Isn't it wild how cold that is? Anyway, it and can save your life, right? So we certainly thank Dr. Elkhateeb for joining us today. And again, running now. It started at 10 o'clock. We'll carry on right through until 2 o'clock. And we'll see you at the first floor at the Halifax Shopping Center in front of Winners. Just very quickly before we head to the news today, you probably heard this in the news. A big news conference is going to get underway here in HRM just over an hour's or just under half an hour's time. Nova Scotia RCMP say they're going to reveal details today about charges laid following a 4-year investigation into allegations of dozens of sexual assaults at Provincial Youth Correctional Facility. Back in July of 2023, RCMP confirmed they were investigating at least 70 cases of alleged sexual assault at the Nova Scotia Youth Centre in Waterville. That's, of course, about 100 kilometers to the northwest here of HRM. At the time, RCMP Sergeant Brian Fitzpatrick said the investigation, which, by the way, is called Operation Headwind, began in 2019. He said the alleged sexual assaults occurred between 1988 and 2017, all 70 cases involving males. adding that investigators were dispatched across Canada to interview witnesses. Up to 200 people were expected to offer statements to police after the RCMP established a confidential hotline for victims or those who had information about alleged sex crimes at the center. Investigators have yet to confirm the identity of the alleged perpetrator or whether more than one person was involved. In case you're curious, the center was opened in 1988. It houses male and female young people serving open or secure custody sentences, as well as young people awaiting court appearances. Their center has 5 cottages out there, I think, which of 2 have 12-bed units. Each has a kitchen, laundry, a common area. The building's interconnected to form a circle around a large recreation area. We have a reporter that is on his way to that news conference today at 11 o'clock, and we will bring you any information that we get out of that before the show ends today. For your investigation into alleged cases of sexual assault, 70 cases, but if I remember correctly, when the police announced that they were investigating this, that they had expected many more people to come forward and share their stories. So that is happening today, and like I said, we will bring that information to you should it become available before the end of the show today. Also, we talked about this yesterday, and I know there was a gigantic sigh of relief on the campus of Dalhousie University. We're expecting details today on the agreement that was reached between Dalhousie University and the Faculty Association. As I read to you yesterday, they issued a joint statement confirming that the month-long labor disruption had come to an end. The university locked out their faculty August 20th, and the nearly 1,000 union members began a strike 2 days later after a strike vote. Key issues on the bargaining table have been wage increases, flexible class schedules. The university said the faculty would return to work tomorrow if the agreement's ratified. So the university professors will be back into the school tomorrow with the earliest start date for classes pegged at the 23rd. So that's next Tuesday. So that's a much shorter period than we had been told before. It would take 2 weeks for them to get ready, or 10 days. Now it's going to be, classes will be up and running on the 23rd. I know still lots of concern within the student community about loss of class time, a legit complaint. I think that a tuition rebate should be ordered for these students who didn't get the services that they paid for. I'm sure the days and weeks to come, the Dalhousie people will respond to that. But I think if you're going to enter into it's essentially a contract, right? They offer you a spot, you pay your tuition, and if they're not providing that service to you, then it only makes sense that you get some of that tuition money back. I don't see any problem with it. Anyway, that's going to happen on the 23rd. Classes back, but it's still not clear whether any changes will be made to the length of the school year. We know that there's a fall break in there, that study week that may go away, and the December exam schedule could also be pushed back. Anyway, lots of questions left to be answered. We have reached out to everybody involved in this to try and get some answers for you, and I think Vanessa's going to try and have them on with us tomorrow on the show or sometime this week. I'm crossing my fingers to see if we can get that information out to you. Also, labor unrest over at SMU now, as I understand it. Negotiations with part-time faculty there, part-time professors, and we were represented by CUPE. And the university broke down saying that they're at an impasse. They held a strike vote earlier, have a strike mandate, so we might be settling one heading to another. Wouldn't that be fun? We're going to stop and take a break here on the program. Blake is going to update us on what's going on in the news, and on the other side of it, you heard about this yesterday, the Auditor General with her latest report, this time focusing on provincial nursing home beds. We'll dig into it when Kim Adair joins the show. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We're back in minutes. All right, welcome back to the Todd Show. I'm Dan Olstrand. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Still to come in this half hour. We, of course, are getting ready to have our conversation with the province's Auditor General, the latest report released on nursing home beds. And a few, I don't know, maybe it's a year ago back, we had a conversation with a local Nova Scotia artist who is Brett Matthews, and he's releasing a new album. In fact, it was released last week, and we're going to have a conversation with him. Discuss the album, discuss the music business, and I look forward to that because it's always fun to have a conversation with the with local talent because it's maybe not as difficult as it was before than it is now, but it's still not easy to try and instead of to try and to break through in the world when we are dealing with where we live and that kind of thing. Anyway, we all know that there's so much talent here in the Maritimes, and we're very happy to welcome Brett to the show as part of the program today. And just a very quick reminder while we get to Kim Adair locked into the system here that after 11 o'clock today, it's Wednesday, so that means Dr. John Gillis will be here. I hope that you have some medical-related questions to join the show, maybe get some answers, maybe get a second opinion. We'll do that for an hour, and Dr. Gillis will be here after 11 o'clock. And then, as always, after Dr. Gillis, we'll open up the telephone lines, and we will run the open hour. Reaction to the Premier's appearance yesterday. We can talk about that. We can talk about the craze that is Costco. I just am dumbfounded by it. I get it. I understand that the stores are busy, but this is the third go around now, second go around of these rumors swirling and people getting excited. It's above me, I guess, and that's why we're going to ask the question: why all the buzz? And that and more. So I hope that you can join us here on the program. This from our website, the City News Halifax website. A new report by Nova Scotia's Auditor General says the province is not following procurement rules for new nursing home beds and isn't properly monitoring new facilities under construction. Kim Adair said the government did not use a competitive bidding process for 4,836 new nursing home beds and awarded contracts to existing nursing home owners without a competitive bid process. Please welcome to the program Nova Scotia's Auditor General, and that's Kim Adair. Kim, how are you?
Hi, good morning. I'm good, thanks.
I guess let's start with the genesis of this. Why did you and your staff and your department decide to take a look at this?
We decided to look at this because it is a large initiative, a very big initiative of the government, where they intend to renovate or add 5,700 new nursing beds by 2032. It's been over a decade since the province has really invested in their nursing homes, and it's a large dollars, essentially $8.5 billion over the next 25 years is what the government's commitment to pay for this is. And the other important thing is they are in the early stages. So a number of the homes, I think about 50 of them, are in what they call the pre-construction phase. 4 have been completed, but we thought by going in and looking at their process at this point in time, we could make recommendations for improvements, and then the department can incorporate them as they carry out the rest of this important initiative.
What did you find? Obviously, you found some concerning numbers and some concerning ways of doing business in this audit.
Yeah, so there's a number of concerning findings that came to light through our testing of various aspects. I would point out that they did do some good things.
Right.
I know a lot of the focus in the media is on the negative aspects of the report, but one of the most important points at the front end is to make sure they did an analysis of the existing beds. They looked at the demand projections going forward, and we found that they did a good job at that, and that they selected sites that matched the demand projections. So the selection of the 50 or so homes that they're going to do this work on did make sense. They also developed a multi-step process to oversee it end to end. But on the concern side, when we looked at the Public Procurement Act and whether or not they followed that, in our view, they did not. They essentially used what they called a right of first refusal, where they went to the existing nursing home providers and said, are you prepared or do you want to continue for another 25 years? And there are sort of reasons and rationale that they put forward to us, but none of what was mentioned to us, we look for compliance with the Public Procurement Act. And there are ways to have like alternative procurement, other ways to address aspects of the Procurement Act that they might not like, but there is no provision in the legislation to use this right of first refusal. So we just pointed out that they're not following the Procurement Act. So that was one of the main points. And the other aspect was monitoring while these major construction projects are underway. Many of the nursing home providers are not equipped, don't have a lot of experience, if any, in overseeing major construction projects. They're in the business of providing health care to our seniors. So it's very dependent on them to carry out the process. So we looked at how is the department doing monitoring and overseeing the construction process, and we found many weaknesses in our testing. So we've made recommendations on that.
Is this right of first proposal that you uncovered here, is this a normal practice? Does this happen all the time, or is this kind of unique?
I believe it's unique.
Right.
There's not even provision for that in the Public Procurement Act. There are a number of exceptions that you can get approval for to not follow the RFP process where you go out to public tender, but they didn't fit under any of those criteria, nor did they go through the process with the folks that assess those situations and find out if they could qualify. They just went ahead and did the right of first refusal.
This procurement process, this isn't the first one of your audits that's uncovered some questions with it. Am I wrong?
Yeah, that's correct. It seems to be a recurring theme in some of our recent reports. The practice of sole sourcing contracts for multi-million-dollar projects, multi-year projects. That's been included in a number of our past reports.
So, Kim, as I understand it, 10 recommendations in this report. Can you highlight a couple of the big ones for us? Improve the monitoring and oversight, follow the Public Procurement Act, improve their website so that the public can easily understand whether or not they're going to achieve this goal of reaching the 5,700 beds by 2032. There was a number of records missing, like 1,000 of the beds we weren't able to test because they didn't have the records, because it was under the responsibility of a previous department and didn't get transferred. So there's a legislation around that as well. So that's just to give you an idea of some of the recommendations. This kind of boils down to transparency, right? Because obviously if there's no records or they're missing or different departments, it's very tough for you and for the public to understand where the money's going.
Exactly. And that's why we sort of summed it up as there's many concerning weaknesses here. There are some positives, but there's many concerning weaknesses that need to be addressed.
Kim, with those recommendations out now, the government has said they will follow all of them. We know in the past that sometimes they don't all get followed. Or are you going to do a follow-up on this one like you do with most of your other ones? Yes,
we will be definitely following up starting 2 years out, and then we will follow up the year 3, 4, and 5 into the future until they're all implemented and reporting back to the Public Accounts Committee.
Kim, I know you're busy. I appreciate your time.
Okay, my pleasure to talk about our report. Thank you.
Absolutely. That is the province's Auditor General Kim Adair. Somebody needs to keep an eye on the cookie jar, right? It boggles my mind. Governments run on paper, and then when we start to dig into the paper's missing, or we have changes in departments and bureaucracy and red tape and run around. it's 2025. Goodness, it's almost 2026. And we still can't figure out a proper way to do this. Anyway, with people like, and I hope, and I trust, I have seen in my experience that the Auditor General will keep the province's feet to the fire on this as we move forward. We need to stop and take another break here on the program. When we get back, local musician Brett Matthews has released a new album. We'll dig into it and to what's up with Mr. Matthews as part of our show today. We'll be back right after the break.
I remember getting home late, stumbling up the stairs. I could hardly keep my head straight, looking in the mirror. You can tell I was drinking, I can tell that you were mad, 'cause you were sick of the excuses that I always seem to have.
The voice of Brett Matthews from Western Cape Breton, redefining Americana with influences from R&B to country, akin to Bon Iver and City of Color. There was a love for music. Started at a young age. He later joined Classified's band in 2019. Well, over 100 shows. I'm sure there's more than that now. The new album is called Lucky Ones, and it's available wherever you get your streaming music, and we're very pleased. I know he's super busy to join us on the program for a few minutes today. Brett Matthews. Brett, congrats on the new album, brother.
Thank you very much, Dan. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, man. Great.
Tell me a little bit about these things. And I often ask this question of artists because I know that songwriters have told me many times in the past that when they're creating music and they're creating songs, they're like children, right? Sometimes they develop quickly, sometimes they don't. And albums are a whole different shooting match. Tell me a little bit about the genesis of this. How'd you come up with the tracks, and how did you come up with the name for the album?
Yeah, so this album, this is some of these songs were songs that I've written years ago, and just kind of like any of my music, I sometimes write them at home, and then I'll take them into Classified studio, and we'll work on them together and kind of put them together piece by piece. But the album's got 9 tracks on it, and we started the first song we recorded for this album was actually the second track called A Little Bit, and we recorded that 6 years ago. So it's been a long time coming,
Been a journey,
and,
right?
Yeah, it's been for sure. And the title of the album is called Tomorrow, and it's it's one of those things where you kind of, tomorrow can mean many things. Tomorrow's a new day, tomorrow's this, but to me it's tomorrow may never come. So I wanted to get these songs put on a full length album and get them out.
Tell me a little bit about the process. Did you record them all with Classified here, or did you record them around the country, around the world? How'd you do it?
Yeah, it was kind of a mix. So some of them I recorded at home. I have a home studio, and some of them I'd take into Classified studio and would work on them there. And there's a track on there called Something Changed that I recorded with David Miles in his studio in Fredericton.
Right.
So it's been all over.
Brett, obviously we have a lot of talent here in the Maritimes. That's not much of a secret, right? If you've been out to a club or you've been out to a show or wherever, or a festival, you know that there's a lot of talent out here. What's it like to work in this part of the world and try and have your music grow to other parts of the country or down to the States or around the world? Is it a difficult process?
It is difficult, but it's also, it's stuff can come out of thin air. You kind of realize that in this industry that there's only sometimes 1 or 2 people between you and some of the biggest artists in the world. You know what I mean? So, we just, anytime I put out a single, we put out press releases and we send it to this person and we send it to this place or this label. And we just try and spread it as much as we can on our end. And then hopefully, it might catch, somewhere else.
Right, and a lot of hard work goes into putting these albums out, but then Many will tell me that the work begins after that, right? When you're out there promoting it and playing shows and doing things. I know you and have been working with Classified for a long time, and you guys are out and about, and you're busy.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's definitely a grind. You know, you got to the other part of it is social media. So you got to have some content to post and some a little bit of ammo in the back pocket to post after the album's out and keep promoting it and trying to keep your voice in people's ears, right? So
right.
It is definitely a process.
Brett, are you touring in support of it now, the album?
We're not touring right now, but we just did a 3-show run we started in Fredericton and then we flew to Toronto and did Peterborough and Hamilton with Classified. So for those shows, I get to play a couple songs from the album. So
nice.
It's nice. I get to reach a wider audience than I would sometimes on my own. But yeah, it's great.
What's your fall look like and into the winter season? Do you have shows booked?
Yeah, I got a few shows booked. For October, I'm doing the Halifax Urban Folk Festival on October 3rd. It's a songwriter's circle at the Carleton. And then later on in the months, we got, those Classified up near Miramichi, up in Eel Ground. I'm doing a show with Rhea May in Iona in October as well. So, yeah, it fills in quite nicely.
Brett, tell me about the local scene. I hear from artists that it's the spaces, the venues are shrinking these days. We're not seeing as many music venues. Is it still vibrant? Is there still places for artists like you to play your stuff?
Yeah, for sure. Like my style is when I do a solo show, my style is kind of acoustic.
Right. But
I also bring what's called an MPC. It's a drum machine for some backing tracks, and I try and make a full sound out of one guy on stage. So my favorite spot to play in the city, I'll be honest, is the Carleton, because I do like an intimate kind of sit down and listen, enjoy, have a couple of drinks or have some food and listen to some music. And
right.
Anytime I've played there, it's always been a real treat. But there's definitely still some venues, but it's like you said, it is kind of shrinking.
Brett, album sounds fantastic. Congratulations, brother, and all the best. And if you're on the station, pop in, will you?
Of course. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
That is Brett Matthews' brand new album out there anywhere you can get it, where you stream your music. Local talent. We're I know this is going to sound hokey, but we're super blessed here in the Maritimes because there are so many really talented and really creative people that have stayed here and make this part of the world their own. Brett mentioned Classified a number of times. He's a worldwide talent, and he still lives here, right? And the list goes on to Plaskets and those of the world. And if you haven't been to see somebody in a long time, get out there and enjoy some local music, man, because they really are working hard and they really are talented. And we need to show them the support that I think that they deserve. Very quickly, before we go to the break, I'm sure Blake's going to get angry at me because I'm going to steal some of his thunder. But the Bank of Canada has cut its key interest rate as predicted by a quarter point to 2.5%. The central bank has said risks have shifted towards a weakening economy and away from rising inflation since its last decision in July. So bank rates down a quarter point. Clinton Wilkins here just after 12 o'clock today. Just take a couple minutes of the open hour to get some perspective, because I know it's important to those of you who have a mortgage and those of you who may be looking at a mortgage or maybe you're looking at financing to get this good information. So that happened, and as well during the last half hour, HRP releasing some information. Do you remember that anti-Semitic graffiti messages that I think it was a Monday over the weekend that they discovered? Anyway, they've charged a 31-year-old Jazim Topali was arrested at his residence in Halifax yesterday, facing now charges mischief related to religious property ×3, public property damage ×3, and public incitement of hatred ×1. Going to stop, take a break. On the other side of it, Dr. John Gillis is here. It's time for house calls. The lines are open, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-821-8255. You have a medical-related question, perfect opportunity to get some advice on a Wednesday. Again, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-821-8255. House calls after the news. All right, welcome back. It's the Wednesday edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. It's just after the news at 11, and that means it's time now for house calls. You have a medical-related question? If you would like some advice from our doctor, you've got a whole hour to get your call in, but get in early so you're not disappointed. 902-405-6000, 902-405-6000, or 1-877-801-8255. Please welcome to the program, Dr. John Gillis. Are you still in the UK, Dr. John, or do you make it back home?
No, I'm back. Came home on Monday.
How was the semifinals or the quarterfinals? That must have been pretty fun to watch.
It was exciting. The Canadian women were amazing. They won big.
Yeah.
Selfishly, I kind of wish they got pushed a little bit more to help prepare them for the next round, but they were still awesome, and a great group of fans, great group of coaches and players, and big one coming up Friday against New Zealand.
Now, New Zealand, as I understand it, are the defending champions, correct?
They are the defending champions, and they often win. Although England would be the favorites. England are are ranked number one, and but the first job is to get past New Zealand, and then likely have a go at England in the final the following weekend.
Women's World Cup rugby is gaining in popularity. If you haven't watched it, it's pretty fun to watch. I watched the quarterfinals, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, and the atmosphere was great. The fans. It's in Bristol. I've never been to Bristol in England, but a really nice, mid-sized city with some water frontage and some nice restaurants and stuff. So yeah, great spot.
902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. If you have a medical-related question, Dr. John's here to answer it. Dr. John, last week the province announced a change to the way that it funds the RSV vaccine for seniors and for kids under 8. That was welcomed by the seniors groups that we talked to. I would imagine more vaccine out there is probably welcome news for you and your colleagues working in the emergency rooms and hospitals in Nova Scotia.
Yeah, absolutely. RSV, respiratory syncytial virus, is a bit of a funny one because for years it was a pediatric virus. It would affect kids under 8, often make them quite sick, often a big cause of admissions. Rarely got to the point where it would take a life, but could be quite serious. But in recent years, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's mutated or what happened, but it's become a big deal in the elderly. And it's very important that we get as many people immunized as possible, particularly the older and with more medical problems.
Still lots of viruses floating around out there, I assume.
Oh, absolutely. It's pea soup, and it's always tough for people to know. People get frustrated. They come to the hospital, and we tell them you've got a virus. There's not much we can do. Maybe give you a puffer to help cough settle down quicker, and they're frustrated because they've been sitting there for 6-8 hours, but there is nothing else. So, but by the same token, some people with medical problems and older folks can get quite sick from these viruses, and so if you're struggling, you should always get checked. If you're younger and healthier and it's more of a cough, annoyance, fever thing, try the conservative things first. Such as the over-the-counter cough suppressants, Tylenol or ibuprofen for fever. But at the end of the day, if you're sick and unsure, always happy to check. But I always try to explain to people that there's not much we can do for viruses as long as people's oxygen is fine and they're in no danger.
And vaccines, of course, important to help eliminate this herd immunity, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Just keeping as many people protected as possible, keeping the viral count down, the disease count down is very important.
902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255 is the telephone number. Lines are open if you want to get your question in to Dr. Gillis today. Dr. John got an email yesterday from a listener who said that they were unable to call, so they were hoping I would relay this to you. It reads that my 7-year-old daughter has developed small bumps under her armpits. They say they're not pus-filled, they're not itchy, but they're red and they're there. Any idea? I know it's pretty vague, but is any idea what that could be? Is it a rash?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, that's what a rash is. It's, something on the skin that's not meant to be there. What that is, I mean, it could be just an irritant, from soap, may not be deodorant in that age group. You see that commonly. Could be the start of a hair follicle cyst or something like that. But that's a tough thing to answer without seeing it. Sorry.
Right. And in those cases, creams are available over the counter, right?
Yeah, I mean, often start with a cortisone cream, and talk to the pharmacist, get some advice on that. If it's not settling it down, get it checked further.
902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Another email here says, "Hello, Dr. John. This isn't life-threatening to be sure, but I'm dealing with a big canker sore in my mouth. I get these very often. Not sure if this is a dentist question or not. How do I get rid of them, and how do I prevent more from happening?"
Tough question to answer. I mean, it may be an old tale, but gargling salt water can help. Can't say I've never done that in the past. That's what my mother always told me to do.
Right.
Preventing them. And the other thing, if they're the main thing is pain, which they can be very sore. You put a little Orajel on them, a little freezing that you might use on a baby's gums, but adults can use it as well. And tough to prevent. I mean, I think the main thing is to make sure your diet is balanced, your vitamins are balanced, and you're not missing something that might, sort of suppress your immune system. But that's hard to assess as well, right?
Happens to people in my line of work a lot. Not necessarily canker sores, but you end up biting your tongue and taking a chunk out of it. And I've tried everything, man, to try and make that go away, and it's just time, really.
Yeah, that's it. And it's annoying, and it's just that. It's exactly what you said, time, and deal with the pain.
902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. We're going to take our first break here on House Calls. Lines are wide open. If you have a question, good opportunity to get on. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Dr. Gillis is back after the break. All right, welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. It's House Calls. He is Dr. John Gillis, and he's here to answer your medical questions. You have a question for the doctor, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Let's go to the phones and welcome James to the show. James, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Your question, please.
Yeah, question for Dr. Gillis. There was, my understanding, you've been away. You may or may not have seen this, but there was a little flurry in the media recently about a woman who does not live in Halifax who came to visit a patient in the infirmary portion of the QE2, infirmary building of the QE2. And according to the news report, the visitor saw a mouse or mice on two different floors of the infirmary. The health authority or some official was asked for reaction or comment, and the comment was, "Well, construction is underway. Our bay doors open and close all the time. It's a port city. Don't panic." In other words, sort of cost of doing business. That's my editorial comment. Anyway, just wondering, and I'm not personally panicking. It is indeed, a lot of people in Halifax have seen a mouse, so to speak. But anyway, just wondering if you had any reaction, because the woman who was visiting from out of town said, "Well, I expect a higher standard of hygiene, etc." There you go.
Thanks, James.
Yeah, look, that doesn't surprise me. I think everything, that can be done is done. I mean, if you're worried about the infirmary, I wouldn't take her on a tour of the BG, which was,
right.
Which was built a long, long time ago. Dartmouth is somewhere in between. I've never personally seen a mouse in the hospital, but, you hear people mention it. I think the hospital staff and the caretakers do everything they can to avoid stuff like that. But, with bay doors of ambulances and construction happening, this is an old town, and there's mice around. If we start getting, wharf rats doing triage, then we got a different problem. So,
well, it might help with the wait times, right?
Let's be aware of it, but maybe chill out a little bit. And
right. Dr. John, obviously it raises questions about, infection control and being, sanitary inside the ER and inside the hospital. I would imagine there are major protocols in place, particularly where you work in the ER, to try and prevent these kind of things and infections from spreading.
Yeah, look, we have, and COVID's improved that. I mean, I think we all wash our hands a lot more, use a lot more sanitizer than we used to, but, we're very grateful to the cleaning staff who, their job is to go in and, clean these rooms regardless of who's been in there with what. And, sometimes it's pretty benign, sometimes it's pretty gross. And, the hats off to those people who support us day in and day out and help protect the public by keeping things as clean as possible.
Thanks for the call, James. Appreciate it. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Let's welcome Tom to the program. Tom, how are you?
Good morning. Thank you. Fine. I worked at the IWK for many, many years and saw a mouse or two over the years. Dr. Gillis, congratulations on your Division I rugby team win. It was an impressive game. Tough loss for the other team, but congratulations.
Appreciate that.
Okay, heel spurs. I think I know what causes them. Treatment for them.
I mean, most of the time the treatment is conservative, meaning anti-inflammatories, ice, physio. It would be rare to, do something surgical for this. I think it does happen, but like I said, most of the time it's conservative. There are rare cases where somebody will go in and shave it down and such, but the risk of that is it sometimes can make things worse. So typically ice, anti-inflammatories, maybe physio, sometimes changing the angle of the foot with a heel lift or that sort of thing, can help things. So those are the biggest things. There are taping assists that people can try, but often it's just the things we said. So maybe give that a try. And
it is. I have been doing that, and it is improving. But I developed a pain in my knee. Would it have thrown off my gait to maybe twist my knee or something like that?
Well, yeah. I mean, sometimes people have pain. They walk differently, and it just puts stress on a different point. So it certainly could be that. I had knee problems a couple of years back, and it would change my gait a bit, and I started getting hip pain, even though there's nothing wrong with my hip. So I managed to sort out my knee, my hip pain went away. So hopefully if you, sort out the heel spurs, with the combination of those things we mentioned, the knee pain will go away as well.
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate the call. 902-405-6000, 902-405-6000. Dr. John, another email question has come in. It says, hi, Dr. John. This is a bit of an embarrassing question. It says, I think I have developed hemorrhoids. It's becoming uncomfortable now to sit. I brought some Preparation H, and I've been using it for a couple of days to no noticeable change. Is there anything else I should do, or when do I go to see my doctor?
Yeah, I mean, sitz baths can help shrink them. Using the Preparation H consistently can certainly help. Gross thing to talk about, but, if you're often constipation, firm bowel movements can make them worse. You want to either take a stool softener or, some fiber to try and soften things up. Those things can all help. And at the risk of stating the obvious, keep yourself especially clean. I think most people do, but that's really important to prevent further inflammation and irritation of the hemorrhoids in question.
Do they or can they get to a point where medical intervention is necessary?
Yeah, they can be removed surgically or banded, and they can get quite large. It's not a pleasant thing. I mean, I've seen them the size of a golf ball. It looks like a bloody golf ball on the outside when they're really bad, and they can bleed heavily, and those often need surgical intervention. But if you get ahead of it, and usually you can prevent that.
902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Let's welcome Paul to the show. Paul, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Your question for the doctor, please.
I was wondering, about 5 or 6 weeks ago, I had a infection in my colon. I went to the hospital. They admitted me. First, I had seen my doctor. He gave me antibiotics. That didn't work. And then I went to the hospital. They admitted me for 7 days with another antibiotic through intravenous for 7 days, every 6 hours. And I still had pain after I got out of there. I was supposed to have emergency colonoscopy or colonoscopy done, but it's a long wait. And now I still have pains, and it's like a little bit on my right side also, on the bottom right side. How do we do anything to get this sped up a little faster? Because I'm worried something will happen.
What did you say the diagnosis was?
I had a infection in my large intestine, the colon, I guess the colon they call that.
Diverticulitis? Is that what you were told you had?
Yes. Yes,
okay.
That's what it was.
So, I mean, if it's not gone away, I mean, you should start with seeing your own doctor to, see if you need more antibiotics. Sometimes it's just an inflammatory pain afterwards. You may just need some pain control. Make sure you're not constipated. The colonoscopy, emergency is a bit of a stretch typically. They usually do that just to make sure there's nothing else up there that's causing pain or infection. I'm assuming you had a CT scan?
Yeah, I did, yeah. They could see that it was a little bit inflamed, but I went through 3 different antibiotics and I still have that.
Yeah, well,
so
I guess
twice with the pill.
That? Do you still have CT evidence of infection, or you still have some pain? Because those are 2 different things.
Well, I still have a discomfort on the bottom left, and it's on the right now also. It's draining me out. Like I'm constantly tired.
Go ahead, Dr. John.
Am I allowed to talk now?
Yep.
It may take some time to go away, so you may want to talk to your doctor about just some simple things like Tylenol or some anti-inflammatories for pain. Diverticulitis by itself, I mean, unless you have an active infection, shouldn't make you tired. So you may want to look for other causes of that, whether it's your thyroid, whether you're anemic or something else. But, the idea of an emergency colonoscopy, I wouldn't get too hung up on that. If you think you still have an infection, somebody can assess you for that by examining your belly or doing another scan. Certainly much more accessible than a colonoscopy. And at the same time, to look for other, sources of fatigue, and it may just be that you're recovering from all the antibiotics. The problem with all the antibiotics is, they can cause other problems. You get too many antibiotics, you end up with a different bowel infection, something like C. diff. So make sure you don't have diarrhea or blood, something else going on. That's certainly a possibility. Anything like that happening?
Oh, diarrhea, quite a bit, but no bleeding.
Yeah. So you probably just need to be rechecked either by your family doctor or, if you're really feeling unwell at the hospital, to make sure you don't have, something else like C. diff after being on all those antibiotics. Because, that is one of the problems and why we preach to people that the overuse of antibiotics isn't benign. It can cause other problems as well.
Okay.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it, sir. Best of luck. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Dr. Gillis is here for the next 30 minutes. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. House Calls continues after the news. Welcome back to the Wednesday edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. It's House Calls. Dr. John's here for the next 30 minutes to answer your medical-related questions. Should you have one, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255 gets you access to the show. Lots of open lines if you want to get in and get your question answered. Here's a perfect opportunity. Let's go right to the phones, Dr. John, and welcome Marilyn to the show. Marilyn, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Your question,
and
please.
I have a question for Dr. John.
Sure.
It's regarding the COVID vaccines. Are they going to be available, or I should say the booster, is that going to be available this fall?
Yeah, I think the answer is it depends on, what the virus is doing and if they feel it's morphing. And if it if a new vaccine has been or needs to be developed. And, what I always say to people is just keep your ears open, usually between, public health announcemements, the media, and I think it's always wise to check in with your pharmacist periodically, just to see if what's new.
Yes, I did check at Shoppers yesterday, but she hasn't heard anything. But I heard yesterday this new variant. It's called razor throat. Have you heard of that?
I have not. Where'd you hear that?
Well, it was on CBC, and when apparently they said from the States it's circulating, and it's a very extremely bad throat, along with the other symptoms of COVID. And so I haven't heard of it here, but I'm wondering if you've seen any cases in the ER that have, patients come in with this extremely sore throat that they can't hardly even swallow.
I can't say that I have. I mean, we see a lot of sore throats for different reasons, whether it's just one of your run-of-the-mill viruses or, strep, which is a bacterial infection. But, I wouldn't say I've seen a lot of it, but it's certainly good to be aware of. I just looked it up, and, it's a variant of the Nimbus strain, and it's been, sort of renamed that as razor throat because of that intense sore throat. So the short answer to your question is no, I haven't seen a lot of this. And I guess apparently this isn't super new. This has been described since May or June. And, maybe the fact that it's not made it here, I haven't heard of it, or maybe I just, it just gets caught in the wash with all the other viruses that we see every day. But certainly good information to make people aware of, and, I wasn't aware of it. So thank you for raising that.
Appreciate the call, Marilyn. Thank you very much. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Dr. John, email question comes to us from Gloria. Said, I had a back x-ray in June of 2025. Due to pain I have been having mostly in my lower back and on the left side. As she writes, I asked my physician what the results were, and his only word was arthritis. I have since read the findings on my NS Health app and found that there was mention of multi-level degenerative disc disease and development of the lumbar scoliosis. There is also mention of bilateral lower lumbar facet osteoarthritis. She writes, my concern is now, what is the treatment, if any, is there for scoliosis and disc disease?
So the first comment I would have is, back x-rays aren't very useful for diagnosing or treating back pain. They're useful, if we're looking for compression fractures or traumatic fractures. Compression fractures being non-traumatic, related to osteoporosis, more common but not exclusively seen in women. The rest of the stuff is often what we would see if you took 50, 65-year-old men and women off the street and x-rayed their back. You would see all of those things. Those are changes that happen with time. People's discs degenerate. People get arthritis in their spine. Their alignment, which is what scoliosis is, can go off. Sometimes that's a chronic thing that no one noticed. Sometimes it develops over time. The reality is a lot of those findings are what we would call incidental. They've been there already, and they may or may not be causing pain. If you truly want a proper set of imaging to help determine if pain is coming from a nerve being trapped, which is the most common cause of severe back pain, only a CT scan or MRI is going to show that properly. But coming back to it, regardless of what a picture of the back says, there's nothing catastrophic on there. There's no fracture. There's nothing new we've learned. Then comes back to determining what a diagnosis is and coming up with a plan to treat it, which is often a combination of therapy and activity with massage, physio, chiro, acupuncture, medications to help reduce pain, whether inflammatory or nerve pain, and sometimes, injections at the site of where the pain is coming from, and, in the worst case, surgery. But again, nobody's going to do surgery on the basis of an x-ray. You need to see evidence of narrowings, blockages, or nerve compressions from herniated discs or other sources of narrowings. And the only way to see that is a CT scan or, better yet, an MRI. So, but again, a lot of those those findings on a plain X-ray are, they're a bit of noise that really don't, the findings are real, but they don't really contribute a whole lot to helping determine why someone has pain. I probably have degenerative discs all over my body from beating myself up, but I don't have back or neck pain. So correlating the two is important.
902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255 to the phones. We welcome Pauline to the show. Pauline, how are you?
Oh, very well, thank you. I have what is called a calcific tendinitis in my left arm, and there's pain there all the time. I called a few months ago because I had this lump, and it's still there, so I went to the weekend clinic, and after I had an X-ray, that's what they told me I had. So it's painful. I just don't know how to get rid of the pain. I take Tylenol every couple of hours, and then I put a heating pad on it.
So where's the pain? Did you say your shoulder?
No, it goes the shoulder all the way down my left arm.
Yeah, but where was the tendinitis specifically?
Well, as far what I could understand, it was my whole arm.
Yeah, no, that doesn't happen. You wouldn't have tendinitis in your whole arm. You may have it. Most common place would be the shoulder. You could also have it in the elbow, that sort of thing. Probably important for you to clarify where it is. And then, the treatment range is conservative like Tylenol, ice, topical anti-inflammatories like Voltaren, oral anti-inflammatories, which, usually are more effective than Tylenol, but, can have stomach and blood pressure side effects. And sometimes a cortisone shot in the area, can be very helpful. But again, you need to clarify which area you're talking about. And, it would be, I won't say it's impossible, but it would be very unlikely that you have calcified tendinitis in your whole arm. It's likely in the shoulder or maybe less likely in the elbow.
Yes, that's where it basically is, in the shoulder, and it goes right down to the elbow.
Yeah, so again, those are the treatment options, but you should clarify what the X-ray said where the tendinitis is. But again, as much like I said about the back X-ray, just because an X-ray says you have tendinitis, that doesn't mean that that's the cause of the pain. It could be something else. So a diagnosis is important, and then determine how to best treat it. But as I mentioned, some of the options.
Pauline, appreciate it. Best of luck when you carry on with your treatment. Going to stop and take another break. Dr. John will be here on the other side of it. You're listening to House Calls on the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ahlstrom. We're back in minutes. All right, welcome back. This is House Calls. He's Dr. John Gillis, and he's here to answer your medical-related questions. You have a question for the doctor, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255 to the phones. We welcome Todd to the show. Todd, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Appreciate Dr. John and yourself taking my phone call. Hopefully this will be a quick question. I'm 58, and I've noticed over the last few weeks, maybe 2 months, maybe at the most, like a numbness on my left leg around my knee area. It's like on the exterior of my left leg, and it's like a numbness that it's really just on the surface of the skin. It's not really. It doesn't feel like it's internal. It almost feels like it's it's just numbness on the skin. And that's really the only area. It's maybe a band about, could measure maybe 6 inches or so where it feels like it's numb. Any idea what that might be?
So when you say it feels like it's numb, do you feel like a pins and needles, or does it feel different when you touch it?
Well, it's not like pins and needles. It almost feels like it's, I don't know, like it's frozen on the surface. Like if I put pressure on it, I can feel it underneath, but just, I would just say it almost feels it's just like on the surface of the skin, more or less.
Yeah. So I mean, it could be the fact that it's very localized. There's a little against this. I mean, generally numbness comes from a nerve being irritated, and nerves in the back that get irritated at various levels correspond to different places in the upper thigh, lower thigh, middle thigh, outer leg, inner leg, foot. So, it could be something as simple as that. It could be an inflamed nerve, where it passes through the knee. It's possible it's some local inflammation in the area causing some nerve irritation. In the absence of back pain, it seems a little odd that such a small area, but, I would start by getting, your doc to examine you, see if they determine if they think it's coming from the back or if it's localized or if there's any local sign of infection or inflammation that might be affecting it. So that's probably where I'd start.
Okay. All right.
Thanks, Todd.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Email question, Dr. John says, hey, Doc, I'm 27, have some concerning moles on my back. 3 in particular have characteristics like being large, multicolored, etc. One's particularly big as well and seems to be spreading. I've been to the walk-in clinic and online to Maple to get them checked out. So far, everyone's been rather dismissive. Skin cancer does run in my family, hence why I'm trying to be proactive while I'm in my 20s. Should I push my doctor to get more tests done? Because so far, all I've heard, it's unlikely that you have skin cancer in your 20s.
Yeah, I think it's unlikely, but, I'm not sure what test one would do. You probably need to see a dermatologist. And if it's continuing and changing, it's uncommon to have skin cancer in your 20s. But if it's different and is concerning, I would press for a referral to a dermatologist. That's the simple answer.
And last question, Dr. John. This one just came in, says, hey, Dr. John, I got bit by my neighbor's cat a couple of days ago. The bite area is still red and warm to the touch. Is it infected, and what should I do?
I can't tell you if it's infected from looking at it. It may just be an inflammatory reaction to getting bit. Cat bites, can get infected. There's a couple specific bugs that are in cats' mouths. If it's changing, if it's getting redder, if it's spreading, you should definitely, get it looked at. And, there may be a need for, further action. You may need some antibiotics, but you'd need someone to take a look at it to determine if it's just an inflammatory or allergic reaction or if they actually think it's an infection.
Do we still test for rabies on these things, Dr. John?
Not really. Unless there's a suspicion, that's pretty uncommon. Not to say never, but not too often.
902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255 is the telephone number. Let's see if we can squeeze Debbie in here before we run out of time. Debbie, your question for the doctor, please.
Yes, I have toenail fungus, and I don't know how to get rid of it.
Well, reincarnation, amputation, or a drug called Jublia, which is a drop. Jublia, which is basically it's fancy nail polish for people with toe fungus. You got to put it on every day, but it works really well to get rid of the stuff. So maybe talk to your doctor about that if you're not into reincarnation or amputation.
No, I'm not.
All right, Debbie, appreciate it. Thanks for the call. And that's going to do it, Dr. John. Appreciate your time. We'll talk to you next week.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
That is Dr. John Gillis here every Wednesday to answer your medical-related questions. I love the emails, love the phone calls even more. So keep them coming, and the doctor will do his very best to answer those questions. I mentioned earlier we have just a bit of a change-up today on the program. We're going to, of course, take the news at the top of the hour. And on the other side of it, we're going to have a quick visit with Clinton Wilkins, our host of Mortgage 101 and, of course, a mortgage specialist in the city. The Bank of Canada announcing earlier this morning that it is dropping its lending rate by 25 basis points. I think it's at, 2.5% now. We'll get Clinton's thoughts on what that means and what that means moving forward. If you were listening to Mortgage 101 earlier on the weekend or you caught it on the podcast off of our website, you heard Clinton predict that this is just the first of what could be a couple more. So we could see 3 of these drops over the next 3 quarters. If things don't change, of course. We'll talk to Clinton about what that means and moving forward. And then on the other side of that, then we're going to open up the telephone lines and welcome you to join the conversation to perhaps chat about stuff that you heard yesterday from the Premier of Nova Scotia when he sat with us for an hour. There's been lots of reaction today to the pronouncement from the Premier on this program yesterday that said there will be no strong mayor powers. handed out during this session of the legislature. I know that many of you have called this program in the past in support of strong mayor powers. Some of you even said to get rid of council altogether. That doesn't look like it's going to happen here, at least in this fall session of the legislature. I'd like to hear your reaction to that. If you were a proponent of it, what do you think is going to happen now? The premier, to be fair, said that the province still has lots of tools in the toolkit to deal with issues that they find are maybe out of bounds, like Moore Street or something like that, or the regional plan that they've kicked back. As we all know, regional councils or city councils are creatures of the province. All bylaws and such that come from council have to be approved by the province. But no strong mayor powers for Andy Fillmore or any other mayor in Nova Scotia, at least is part of this round of the provincial legislature, which is to open, I think it's next week. And just a very quick note, we are also going to welcome the leaders of the opposition parties onto the program to tell us a little bit about what they foresee or is going to happen here in this legislative calendar, and that will happen between this week and next. And we're working to make that happen for you as well. And I've got a couple of emails from something I said off the top of the show today. All this buzz around this third Costco, right? A few months back, maybe it was last year, we heard that there was a new Costco coming to somewhere in Sackville. I think it was Lower Sackville. Maybe it was the same place. And everybody got kind of wound up and excited about it. Then the developer said, hey, well, hang on. Nothing happening here. No looking here. Anyway, and then as I understand it, it was a town hall meeting earlier this week. The mayor, Andy Fillmore, alluded to a new Costco coming to Middle Sackville. Now that's kind of getting walked back a little bit. Everybody seemed to get quite excited about this third Costco, and I'm at a loss as to why. Like, I understand that Costco is a busy place, and I understand that the Dartmouth Crossing store and the Bears Lake store are busy places, but a third location and everybody kind of gets all pumped up. Why is it? I got an email from somebody who said, well, it's simple, Dan. It's that, if we open a third store, then the foot traffic at the other two is going to drop off. I guess. If this was a very first Costco that we never had before, like, do you remember when we opened Costco the first time, or when the IKEA store launched and it was new, there wasn't one of those around. Everybody was really excited to see what it was, and everybody got to go for their Swedish meatballs, and there was some buzz surrounding that. But this is a third location. It's not a first or even a second location. I'm curious to your thoughts on this. And some people have wrote me and said, you're right, Dan, it's the hot dogs. But anyway, I'll throw that out to you as part of the open hour. What's the craze with Costco? Why is everybody so excited about a third location, even though it has not yet even been confirmed? The telephone lines are now open, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Just very quickly, Clinton Wilkins will be joining us right after the noon news to give us his thoughts on the Bank of Canada rate, and then we'll turn things over to you for the open hour. Again, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. We're back after the break. All right, welcome back. Hour number 3, the Wednesday edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. It is the open hour. You can get into the queue now. The lines are open, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. If you want to chat about whatever it is on your mind, perfect opportunity to do so. Very quickly, before we get to the phones, let's welcome Clinton Wilkins to the show today. Mr. Wilkins, how are you, sir?
Thanks for having me, Dan. I'm doing great.
So you listening to Mortgage 101 on the weekend because, well, I was the special guest star host for that. And you boldly made the prediction that the Bank of Canada was going to drop its key interest rates by a 25 basis points. And lo and behold, they did.
I'm not falling on my sword today, Dan. So it's great news to be able to report. I think for homeowners, obviously good news. reducing the cost of borrowing is very positive. I think really the reason the Bank of Canada reduced this key rate, and economists were really waiting with bated breath for this announcement today. One was the job numbers. Two, inflation is below target, even when we take into consideration things like the carbon tax and just the general state of the economy. We're now in a situation where we can start spending some more. I think we can be cautiously optimistic. I did host a webinar with a senior economist from Bank of Montreal earlier this week for industry in Nova Scotia and in New Brunswick. And they're projecting that we're going to see the key rate down 75 basis points by the 1st of January. So I think we're going to see a few more cuts here along the way.
So this is just the beginning, right?
This is just the beginning. And I think we can be cautiously optimistic that many mortgage rates will start with a 3. And I think optically, Dan, it's motivating for consumers. Existing homeowners that have their mortgage coming up for renewal, it's great news. If you want to refinance, or if you're looking to buy a new home, having the cost of borrowing being less enables you to have more dollars in your pocket monthly to pay for things like food and gas, which still is, we've suffered from the inflation, but now we're basically in the new normal.
Clinton, what does this mean actually to somebody that already is in their mortgage? Let's say they have a variable rate, a 25 basis point drop. Like, are we talking tens of dollars? Are we talking hundreds of dollars a year? What kind of savings does this create?
Well, anybody who has a variable rate mortgage, depending on how their mortgage is set up, either their payment's going to start going down, Dan, or their amortization's getting shorter.
Right.
The actual monthly savings is really based on how much they owe and what their amortization is. So I can't tell you dollar-wise how much people are going to save. 25 basis points is not a lot, but for some people, that can be thousands of dollars a year, depending on what they owe.
You and I were talking about this on the weekend, Clinton. You suggested, and I think it kind of makes sense, that with the Bank of Canada doing what they did today and the potential of them doing it 2 more times, that those that have been kind of on the sidelines and watching and waiting, this may motivate them to pull the trigger on a deal.
I think it certainly will, especially knowing that we're going to continue to see some cuts here, hopefully, in the future. The Bank of Canada has not reduced the key rate in 6 months. March was the last time we had a cut, Dan. So we're back now on this reduction. And typically what happens is when the Bank of Canada starts reducing the rate, they'll continue reducing the rate. So I'm cautiously optimistic that, the economists are right. But again, anything can change tomorrow.
Right.
Things that are going on in the U.S., things that are going on in our economy. There's many factors that come into these Bank of Canada decisions. And really, the governor of the Bank of Canada, they don't know until today what's going on. Yes, it was highly speculated this week that we're going to start seeing a reduction. But push comes to shove, they really don't know until this announcement is being put out.
Do the banks follow this? Do you think that all the major lenders are going to follow this reduction, or are they going to do their own thing?
The banks will follow. So most banks' prime will be 4.7%. Some will update it immediately, Dan, so within the next, 24 hours. Other lenders will update it for the 1st of October. It just depends, what that lender's policy is.
Clinton, very quickly, a peek into the market. What's it look like out there right now? Is where are we at, buyers, sellers wise, and is there inventory available?
Certainly, lots of inventory. We're seeing more and more listings come up, and we're more in a balanced market today, Dan, than we were before from a real estate perspective. I'm not a realtor, but I'm a professional looking from the outside in, and I can tell you that there's certainly transactions happening. From a purchase perspective, I would say there was less purchases happening here in 2025 than we saw maybe in previous years. But having a more balanced market, I think, is good for everyone. There was just too much stress and strain on the market, including from our side of things, Dan. Like, it's tough when we're under this much pressure to be able to do these transactions. Having it being more balanced, I think, is good for everyone. And I can tell you there certainly are a lot of buyers out there with pre-approval. So I expect we're going to see some offers and a very busy fall going into the end of the year.
Clinton, is always a pleasure, my friend.
Thanks for having me, Dan. Have a great day.
That is Clinton Wilkins. He's our mortgage expert. A 25 basis points reduction in the prime lending rate down to 2.5%. That announced just a couple of hours ago. And Clinton says that it is only the very beginning. All right, let's switch gears. Let's open up those telephone lines. Let's get the open hour underway. The telephone number is 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Lots to talk about out there. We had a long conversation yesterday with the Premier of Nova Scotia. Of course, the big news that came out of that, no strong mayor powers are coming this legislative session. Doesn't mean that they're never going to come, but they're just not going to happen in the future here, the early future, I'll call it. I was completely surprised when he said that on the air yesterday. I was fully expecting that to be the number one agenda item. I thought that was going to be the first bill that got passed when the MLAs get back to work down there at Province House, but that is not to be the case. As I've said before, I know a number of you have called this program during these open hours to voice your support for strong mayor powers. That's not happening now. I'm curious as to what your thoughts are about that announcement and where we go from here. That can be part of the conversation. Also, of course, we can talk about interest rates. That happened today. There's lots of stuff to talk about, and this buzz that I still am having trouble getting my head wrapped around. That the community seems to be, for lack of a better term, giddy about a third Costco location. The reason why this is back in the news is Mayor Fillmore was at I do believe it was a town hall meeting on Monday, and may have alluded to this happening in Middle Sackville, and that just took off, and now everybody's kind of like, hey, wait a minute, this isn't a done deal yet. But this isn't the first time that we've seen headlines and we've seen reaction, people that are excited about it. I don't get it, but that's why the beauty of this open hour is you can educate me on why we should be excited about this, the third location of Costco. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to get right to the phones. Appreciate your patience. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We're back in a minute. All right, welcome back. It is the open hour. The lines are open, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. What's on your mind? Your chance to talk about it right here on the Todd Veinotte Show. Let's get right to the phones and welcome Sam to the show. Sam, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Your question or your comment. I'm all frazzled because of this Costco thing. It's driving me bananas.
That's okay. I actually called yesterday, and I had the chance to ask a quick question to the Premier.
Okay.
But I just wanted to make a quick adjustment to what I said, or say what I wish I would have said,
okay,
but couldn't get the words to come out.
Happens to me all the time.
Yes. Yeah, I was feeling the pressure. So I asked him why the Coastal Protection Act was abandoned.
Right.
Which I should have known he was going to give the answer that he had already given, which was we think it's better to be taken care of by the municipalities. But what I wish I could have responded to him was the municipalities want the province to take the charge on this issue for sure. I mean, the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities has come out recently and said we want strong coastal protection regulations coming from the top down. And another comment he made is that Nova Scotia's coast is just simply too diverse to make, a one-size-fits-all rule. I'll tell you, I live in Lunenburg County, and as far as I know, we're the only county to date that has actually written their own coastal protection regulations, or bylaws, I should say. And I can tell you, we have everything he said, bogs, wetlands, dunes, and cliffs. We have it all. And we wrote very comprehensive, strong protections for all of those cases. Mm-hmm. There's no reason there's no reason the province couldn't do the same. And that's what the municipalities want. And that's what a lot of people living in coastal communities want too. And I just want the Coastal Protection Act is, according to him, dead, but, I just don't want I don't want that issue to die with the Coastal Protection Act. I just want to keep the eye on the ball on that one, because I think protecting the coast is a very, very important issue in this province.
Appreciate the call, Sam.
Thanks.
902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Another conversation about a coast. Well, this one kind of a shoreline in the Dartmouth Cove, and we're very pleased to welcome back to the show Nicole. Nicole, how are you?
I'm well, Dan. How are you?
I apologize, haven't had a chance to read your email yet. It's been a busy day.
Well, I think you're going to like it when you do.
Okay.
Because it's interesting that I just heard what happened with Premier Houston yesterday.
Right.
Regarding the superpowers for Andy Fillmore, and there's going to be more context on that, I think, in the coming days and weeks, and we'll have a conversation when that happens.
Okay.
But today we're going to talk about Dartmouth Cove, because when we spoke with Councillor Hensby, he said something that was both concerning and alarming to me, and it was that the province was required to disclose their own conflicts of interest. So when he said that sent red flags up for me, and it caused me to go digging.
Okay.
And I found some interesting things. And what happens when you are looking to amend a bylaw and it has to go for approval at the ministerial level? There's a series of things that must happen to ensure that that decision can't be overturned by judicial review. And the way it doesn't get overturned by judicial review is to ensure all conflicts of interest are appropriately named. So when we're looking at this, people want to get into like the weeds of what those conflicts of interests are, but I'm looking strictly at the structure. And we have some major structural issues. And we're going to start with Andy Fillmore. So Andy Fillmore, federal Liberal MP for Halifax from 2015 to 2023 under Trudeau. And in 2024, during his election run, he received maximum donations of $3,000 from each Brad and Tom Hickey, who are the principals of ARCP and the major proponents of Dartmouth Cove. And what happens when you look at that, those facts engage what's known as the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, which is embedded inside of Section 18 of the Municipal Charter. And what that means is that it must be disclosed. Any indirect pecuniary interests must be disclosed. Councillors with an interest must disclose, withdraw, and refrain from voting, and the clerk has to record those disclosures. And if you fail to comply with that, you can forfeit your seat and become disqualified from council, and decisions made in violation become voidable for up to 2 years. So if we don't see a recusal from Andy Fillmore before the decisions are made on this, council's going to have a problem.
Nicole, very quickly,
yes.
and obviously you're much more tuned into the law than I am, but I did watch that council meeting on this last week, and this very issue was raised. One of the councillors, I don't remember which one, raised the issue about the mayor and about others on council that had received donations from the people involved in this. And it went to the city solicitor, and the city solicitor said that it doesn't apply here. Now, again, I'm not a lawyer, and that video is available on their website if you want to take a look at it. But that's what I saw when I watched the meeting.
And so I would recommend that people dig into what is known as the Code of Conduct for Municipal Employees.
Right.
And see if that response from the city solicitor meets the threshold for a potential code of conduct violation. Because the other issue that we have at the provincial level is Lieutenant Governor Mike Savage, former federal Liberal MP, who was also the mayor of the HRM and now sits as the Lieutenant Governor. And the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, who holds statutory approval over the municipal planning amendments, his authority is vested into him by Mike Savage. So when I was talking the other day about silence at the federal level, people like to say, oh, but the Department of Transport said something and these other departments. No. I'm talking about silence on conflict of interest, because what we're looking at right now is that the federal government has friendlies sitting in our municipal council, in our provincial cabinet, and we need to look at what that silence could be. Because just because the individual departments inside of the federal government are not talking about specific interests doesn't mean that those interests aren't being satisfied through these relationships. And council has a duty to put it all on the record and to ensure that it's all on the record. And I think at this point now, it's also incumbent upon citizens to understand their civic duty and their civic roles to ensure things like this end up on the record. And the only way things end up on the record is if they are submitted via email to the clerk of the municipal council. And that email is clerks@halifax.ca. Anything that hits their inbox must go on the municipal record. And it becomes undeniable, because the problem with silence is there's like a specific architecture to silence. Silence, you can make a bunch of assumptions and presumptions about it, but unless it's physically recorded and can be seen, no one has to act on it. So if no one's naming these specific conflicts of interest, they never hit the record. And once they're on the record, they must be addressed. And if they're not addressed, well, now we get to look at Dartmouth Cove going up for judicial review. And so I'm actually shocked that the solicitor said that it doesn't meet the threshold for a conflict of interest.
I don't want to quote what the solicitor said, but I know that he did speak to it on that meeting, and that video is available on the city's website.
That's fantastic, because that's a public record and it's public evidence.
There you go.
And that just starts strengthening the case, because under the Municipal Code of Conduct, electors have the right to bring this to the court. The Attorney General does, and so do the electorates. And if contravention can be found by the courts, then the courts can overturn any decisions that are made. And this isn't about saying that there's any misconduct. This isn't about allegations of misconduct. This is about having full legal transparency and what is exactly happening, and understanding how the federal government, specifically the Liberal government, is deeply, deeply entrenched inside of all of the leaders at our municipal and provincial level. And so when we're looking at issues like Dartmouth Cove, which can invoke federal powers and provincial powers, we need to be aware of that, so that we can make sure that all of the disclosures are happening that are necessary, and that council is being held to their statutory duties as their role of office. They chose that job. They want it to be there, and so we must hold them accountable for it.
Nicole, I learn something every time you call.
Yeah, great. I'm happy to help.
I appreciate it. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Dan.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. A couple of email questions, or email statements, or emails, maybe just straight out emails. This one from Ken with regards to my questions about Costco. It says, it makes sense for people living in Mount Uniacke, Windsor, Wolfville areas, as it would be closer to then driving to the busy Bears Lake area. We have more than 2 Walmarts, Canadian Tires, Sobeys, Superstores, Staples, Giant Tiger, Dollaramas, so why not Costco? They offer better quality and lower prices than their competitors. If you purchase TVs, computers, electronics, tires, car batteries, it comes with an extended warranty. In my area, there are 4 Dollaramas by Bears Lake, Larry Utech, Clayton Park, and Sobeys Mill Cove. Hopefully, a new Costco will bring some employment to the area. All valid points, Ken, but the question is when they open a new Canadian Tire store or a new Dollarama, the world doesn't go giddy, right? They open the doors. Maybe they buy some ads. Maybe it gets some social media push. But this Costco store has had headlines, I think, twice, if not 3 times now, and it's not even been confirmed yet. I don't get it. I still don't get it. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. The open hour continues after the news. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. Mid-Week Meltdown. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. The open hour continues from now to the top of the clock. Lots of lines open if you want to get in and voice your opinion. Lots of things to discuss. Strong mayor powers, our visit with the premier yesterday, the Costco question that I'm puzzled about. That or whatever it is on your minds. The beauty of the open hour. Let's go to the phones and welcome Jeremy to the show. Jeremy, how are you?
Not too bad. How are you?
Good. What's on your mind?
I just heard that breaking news story about the 66 charges, filed against a former swim coach at the Waterville Youth Facility. And first of all, I want to say my hearts go out to the victims for sure.
Terrible story.
It is a terrible story, but unfortunately, it's one that we're fairly familiar with in Nova Scotia. We had the Shelburne Home for Boys. We had the Nova Scotia Home for Colored Children. There was abuse that took place there in both of those institutions. And then moving along to New Brunswick, there was the Kingsclear Home for Boys as well. And there was, notorious sexual predators who were employed by at least 2 of those institutions for sure. And I think one of the things that really strikes me in listening to the RCMP press release this morning. My hat's off to the investigators as well. It can't be easy to investigate these types of things, but why does it take so long for this stuff to end up in front of the courts?
Right. They interviewed 450 survivors, so that would have taken some time just on itself, right?
Fair enough, but one has to wonder. These 450 survivors didn't just come out of the woodwork yesterday. I think the allegations have been in play in some form in the public forum for probably decades.
Since
right?
1988, apparently, from what I understand. So yes, you're
okay.
correct.
So we're looking at almost 30 years, right? And again, given the history here with the Shelburne Home for Boys and the Nova Scotia Home for Colored Children, the fact that we know that systemic abuse takes place in these institutions that are responsible for the safeguarding and the well-being of young people, I think at this stage, we're foolish to think or to think it doesn't happen. I think, just like we see victims in other venues, these types of things get dismissed until it's such an avalanche. And at that time, the harm that's been done is so, I think, just tragic. But
absolutely,
I don't see how it is at this stage in all provinces across Canada, there isn't some kind of ombudsman or some kind of third-party independent watchdog that is employed, independently of these institutions who are in charge and care of these vulnerable young people. It's kind of enraging because it's just the next time we're hearing about it, and it's been happening for decades in lots of different forums. But
happens all too often. You're correct.
A lot of those forums are, ultimately run by government. And I read a quote from Stephen McNeil's government in 2014. He said basically we can't be responsible for what people do 24 hours a day when they're working in a public institution. That's technically true, but when there are allegations that start to come, by the dozens, I think the government then has a much higher standard to really dig into those. And I think there needs to be an independent body outside of perhaps the RCMP, who may not be at arm's reach. I don't know. I'm not suggesting any foul play or any kind of wrongdoing in that regard. But, what I do think is that, much like maybe the Auditor General's office or some kind of independent institution whose sole responsibility is to look into allegations of abuse when they're brought by kids.
And outside of law enforcement, because in cases like this one, this facility is a correctional facility, right? So the people that were victims of this may not have wanted to speak to police because they don't trust them, right?
Absolutely, and not every person that works in a correctional institution is going to be a nice player.
Right.
Look, that's the reality of life, right? So I think, it's a tragic story. And again, my hearts go out to the courage and, the victims that have come forward. And I think there needs to be a heck of a lot more done. And I think government absolutely bears some responsibility and needs to take that responsibility and do something meaningful with it.
Good points, Jeremy. Appreciate the call.
Thanks, bud.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Let's welcome Len to the show. Len, how are you?
On this beautiful summer day, it's beautiful.
What's on your mind today, Len?
I would like to say, first of all, I don't want to offend anybody, but I was just out to the Bayers Lake, the hospital out there.
Yep.
And I think what's wrong with our health, what's wrong with the health system, there's nothing wrong with the health system. It's the people that are not doing the right thing. When I look out there and I sit there for about an hour or more, and what I'm looking at is people that are there that are, the obesity is something terrible that people have right now in our society. And it's the reason why they have arthritis, why they have back problems, why they have knee problems and hip problems. I mean, I can't tell you the obesity of these people that are there as patients. And I would wonder, does the doctors tell them that most of their problem that they have is because of their weight problem? I mean, I'm talking about stomachs like you'll never believe.
Len, it's not always their fault, right?
No, maybe it isn't, but it's terrible.
It's terrible to paint an entire group of people with one brush.
Yeah, but we do have a problem with obesity in the whole country. That's for sure.
Well, there's I don't think there's any doubt about that. All the experts will tell you that there is. But to make a broad statement saying that that's why the healthcare system's broken, I don't know. I don't know if you can go down that road.
No, I'm not going down that road, but I'm just saying that the problem with the people that have all these different problems with their health, a lot of it is to do with their weight. But anyway, that's beside the point. That's up to them. The other thing I want to congratulate you on, there's a word that we use in the English language, and you use it properly. It's called kilometers. And I don't know why people say kilometers when it's not pronounced that way. But I know you do it the proper way, and so does Kalen that gives the weather. But when you pronounce a word like kilometers, it's broken up into 3 syllables, like I was taught in school. It's KIL-O-METER. So why do people put 2 L's in it and 2 M's in it is beyond me. But that's their choice, I guess.
It is,
but
Len.
But I'm saying that at least you pronounce it correctly, and,
thanks, sir.
And all the power to you.
Have a good one, sir. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Usually get complaints about the way that I pronounce things, so it's good to hear it. It's one of those things that it has become almost acceptable to pronounce things wrong because so many people do it. Not to say it's right, but that's tends to be what happens. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. The open hour continues after the break. All right, welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. It's the Mid-Week Meltdown Open Hour. 902-405-6000 is the number, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. What's on your mind today? Your chance to join the show. A couple of lines open if you wanted to get on. Perfect opportunity right here. Let's welcome Ed to the show. Ed, how are you?
Hello, Dan. How are you today?
I'm well. What's on your mind?
So the Costco question, I think the reason Costco is such a giddy subject is that people are happy that there's some services moving outside of the area, outside of the downtown core.
Right.
So I was at the meeting the other night with the mayor, and when it was brought up, and the reason that it was brought up was a resident of close to this area decided that they weren't really happy with the Cobequid Cultural Center going in across the street in front of Indigo Shores. And then he brought up that the Costco, Sobeys, all this kind of stuff was going possibly to be in this area. And he explained that they try to find nucleus hubs areas where services already exist. So I think the giddiness comes from the fact that people are tired of going downtown, no parking, hard to get around, and that, you're going to have a Costco, which will be another store that may have different products than they have in the other two. And I think it's partly in Sackville alone. I think it's because we're starting to see some growth and some the future of moving out from the city core, because I think people are just really tired of trying to get downtown to do things, or even into Bears Lake, which you've seen the traffic there.
I live there.
Crossing.
Yeah, I live very close to Bears Lake.
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from. And Ed, those are all fair points. I get that. It's puzzling to me that this is not the first time that this has come up, right? And it gets headlines every time it does, and everybody's kind of reluctant to say that it's actually going to happen.
Right. And I think what happened was the lady that was not happy about the development, the mayor had said something to the effect that it was sort of like if passed and all the permits and everything is done and they purchased the land, which I don't think they actually have purchased the land yet, that was what was proposed for the area. So they kind of took it out of context when the meeting was over. I seen the Laker News had it on within like 5 minutes of the meeting being over. And it was basically a conversation that included the possibility of that it may go there. I don't think he really announced it, but I'm sure that he has a lot more knowledge than we do on what is coming.
Likely, I would think so. One would hope anyway, Ed.
Yeah.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. That's the numbers if you want to get onto the program. I don't know. I get it, and I understand the people of Middle Sackville would be very excited about something like that, not having to travel. I get it, but this is being shared all over, right? And people just, I don't know, are pretty excited about the Costco. Some people suggest that maybe it's the hot dogs. I don't know. But it's wild that facility. I guess maybe my my questioning about the whole thing is that we get very excited when another chain comes to town, right? Costco's an American chain, comes to town. I just would like to see the same level of excitedness, if that's the right word, when something local opens up. But you just don't, right? 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. To the phones, we welcome Andrew to the show. Andrew, how are you?
How are things today?
I'm well. What's on your mind, sir?
So I want to talk about that second last caller about obesity.
Sure.
I'm a big guy myself. I've lost some weight. I gained it back, had a hip replacement. But I think we need to talk about not blaming the people that are obese, but sort of the economical, or I don't know the terms or anything, but it's expensive to eat healthy.
You're not lying, sir. That is the honest to goodness truth.
You need to go out 3 or 4 times a day just to get healthy products. If not, they spoil.
Right.
So a lot of people don't have access to that process. So what do? You buy processed. And all of a sudden now you're gaining the weight, you're creating issues with your body, you're having ailments. You can't blame them. But on the other hand, we're not, you're not being forced to eat. So there's a common line there that we have to sort of meet on. And I go through the process myself. It's a tough one. It's very tough. And I just don't think we need to blame the people that we look at them and say, why are you eating so much? And that's almost like what he was saying. Why do you eat so much? And unfortunately, there's mental issues,
right,
social, just everything. I know I'm rambling here, so.
No, Andrew, it would be nice that, and I think there's a little bit of, and blame maybe isn't the right word, but there's a little bit of that to go around for everybody, right? Because I think you hit the nail right on the head when you said that it's cheaper for people to eat unhealthy than healthy. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think that to go out and buy fresh vegetables and healthy food, as opposed to the bag of potato chips, it's neither here nor there, right? So I don't suggest eating potato chips every meal. It's probably not good for you.
No.
But I think there's a
happy.
Yes.
Yeah, there's what's the word I'm looking for? There's a balance needed.
Right.
But unfortunately, everybody's lives are full of stress. Like myself, I'm a stress eater. And, and the doctor always says, get rid of the stress, get rid of the stress. Well, it's not that easy. I'm sorry.
Right.
If you want to pay some of my bills, then maybe my stress will go away. But,
right.
I just, you can't judge people when you look at them like that. It's not fair.
You're correct.
And, like myself, I've been big all my life, and I lost the weight, I said, and I just think I don't want to be judged, and I don't think anybody else has to be judged. Maybe help them, give them some encouragement. Somebody says, I lost 5 pounds last week. You know what? That's not 5 pounds gain. You got to give encouragement. Anyways, that's my spiel.
All right, Andrew, appreciate the call, sir.
Thank you for your time.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255 is the number. We've talked to many different experts in many different fields, right? We've talked to people, heart and stroke. We've talked to people, the Diabetes Association. We've talked to people with a bunch of, medical degrees. We've talked to people like Sylvain Charlebois, who will agree with you that it's far more expensive to try and fill all of the Canada Food Guide requirements daily than to eat the processed stuff, and people's budgets are tight. They may not be able to get to, what is it, is it still 5 to 7? See, I don't even know. And I'm obese. I'll admit it. I am. And I'm very much like Andrew. I'm a stress eater. And to get the stress out of my life, well, Vanessa does a lot of that. She gets a lot of the stress out of my life because she does such a fantastic job on the other side of the glass. But it's life is a stressful place, right? But I do share some of the responsibility for that, right? I'm the one who's making the decisions. So if I'm not feeling good, or I'm a little stressed out after the program, and that bag of chips is right there, or chips are my kryptonite, right? And I know better, but I do it anyway. So I think there's plenty of of blame to go around. If blame's the right word, it's probably not even the right word, but I think there's responsibility to go around, right? And but I think that as much as grocery stores have to share some of that responsibility as well, right? And I know that fresh fruits and vegetables we have to truck them in, and they're all perishable, and it costs money to put them on the trucks, and then it costs money to air condition the stores and so on and so forth, right? But I think everybody has some shared responsibility in that, because everybody that is in the healthcare profession will tell you that there is an obesity problem in Canada. There's no doubt. There's absolutely no doubt. 1-877-801-8255, 902-405-6000. Lots of responses to you from the Costco question. Most people seem to be okay with it coming in. Many people saying along the same lines, and I'm not going to read them all, but along the same lines that the two stores that exist now are so darn busy that having a third store might alleviate some of the pressure on it. And as I mentioned, I haven't been to a Costco since the beginning of the year. But that being said, my experiences with Costco in the months previous, I will say, particularly trying to get propane, it has been busy. So maybe that's a good thing. I just wonder. Anyway. I think I've been pretty forthright on what I think about the whole thing. Let's see if we can grab a couple more calls before we have to go away for the day. David, how are you?
Hi, how you doing?
Good. What's on your mind?
My name is Dave Boyd, and as you know, I'm a Mario candidate in the past, and I'm a future political candidate. But one thing that's really on my mind is that I sent a letter to Premier Tim Houston about it, and I talked to him in person. And it's, Jolie, I think was her name, Angela Jolie or someone, I don't know, was a federal minister looking for retail expansion into Europe markets, into Canada. And I wonder, why didn't anyone from Nova Scotia or the federal government go to Mexico? There's Shadawi, there's all kinds of brands down there, Commercial Mexicala. Why did we look for them to come to Canada? Because we have an excellent shipping chain.
Right.
It takes 3 days to get anything from Mexico. Why are not anyone going down there? I mean, should they always open stores in Texas, Arkansas? They're going through the southern states and throughout Mexico, and they're always expanding. Why not come here? We have an excellent place, the Old Bay store in Micmac Mall. There's places in Mayflower Mall in the Valley. Across Canada, I'm sure there's hundreds of locations that they could expand and use.
Fair point.
And I just wanted to bring that point. Why don't someone talk to our ministers in charge of that? And like I said, Tim Houston said he'd get back to me on it. And Tim's great. Tim Houston has done a great job. Anytime you tell him he'll get back to you, he will get back to you. Just want people to know that. So this is a quick little thing. Maybe we should put some pressure on the government to look south, deep south, and get the Mexican market here. I don't mind that at all. I've seen the Shadawi open up in Halifax.
David, appreciate it, sir.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
That's going to about do it for the open hour. I appreciate each and every one of you who took time out of your busy days to dial the numbers and join the show. You make my day every day that you do it. Thanks to all of our guests for joining us here on the program today to impart their knowledge on us. It'd be pretty boring 3 hours if it was me talking all the time, wouldn't it? We have a big show planned for you for the Thursday edition, of course, as we do just about every day. Lots to talk about out there. Lots of things to try and get to the bottom of and dig around on. We're going to try and get to the bottom of, as I understand it, the Dalhousie Faculty Association and the university are going to release details of the new agreement that they agreed on later today. So we'll do our very best to try and have someone come on the program tomorrow to talk about it. Earlier in the week, we heard or read that NSGEU and the province have come together on some kind of agreement through our binding arbitration. I'm not even really sure what bargaining unit it is. We're going to get to the bottom of that when we meet with Sandra Mullen tomorrow. That's going to be part of the program. And Duncan Williams, the president and the CEO of the Construction Association of Nova Scotia, had that conversation with the premier yesterday with these housing plans, right? And the premier admitted that there's a shortage of skilled labor in Nova Scotia. And to say that you're going to build all these thousands of homes is all fine and good. Finding different ways to make them a little cheaper. When we had our conversation with Colton LeBlanc earlier in the week, prefab designs, those cookie cutter houses. But I still am not convinced that there's enough hands out there to build these things. So we'll have a conversation with the president and the CEO of the Construction Association of Nova Scotia tomorrow. Thanks to Vanessa Van Inez, a rock star behind the glass. Thank you to you for joining the show. Remember, everybody, be well and be kind to one another.